Hello everyone, John here with Untapped MTG, and we're coming at you with our Hour of Devastation Spoiler Edition best cards of the set. Now these cards will reflect cards that were spoiled before Saturday, so anything that's spoiled after Saturday, June 24th, will not be included in the list. So before you tear me apart in the comments, just wanted to get that out there. Also, it's time to start pre-ordering your booster boxes and your bundles and your singles. Best place to do that is legitmtg.com, where everything over $2 ships free. So head on over there, get your pre-order your singles, get your booster boxes ordered, get your bundles ordered, and anything else you might need for your Magic the Gathering experience you can find at legitmtg.com. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hour of Devastation is all about Nicol Bolas and what he's going to do. He's going to destroy things, he's going to exile things, he is going to wreck shop. So, with that being said, the first cards that we're going to talk about are the new Desert Lands. The Desert Land cycle, you have Desert of the True, which taps for a white, or you can cycle it for 1 and a white. Desert of the Mindful, which taps for a blue, or you can cycle it for 1 and a blue. Desert of the Glorified will tap for a black, or you can cycle it for 1 and a black. Desert of the Indomitable taps for a green, or you can cycle it for 1 and a green. And Desert of the Fervent taps for a red, or you can cycle it for 1 and a red. These cards are going to be good for your cycling. They're going to be good to make mana, but they're also good because we have found out that there are certain creatures in this set that are going to have to do with desert lands. There are certain creatures that give you +1/+1 if you have a desert land on the battlefield. They also give you +1/+1 if you have a desert land in your graveyard. So, these desert lands are going to be good for cycling. They're also going to be good to have on the battlefield just for the extra +1/+1 that they're going to give to certain creatures. And of course, they produce mana of some type. They're also going to be good because there's also certain cards in this set and certain cards in Magic that allow you to play cards from your graveyard, or land cards from your graveyard. So if you cycle one of these and then you have a card that lets you play a land card from your graveyard, you can cycle it, draw a card, and then play it from your graveyard. So you get double the value there. Then we have Reminap Excavator for 2 and a green. It's a 2/3 Naya Cleric. And this is one of them. You may pay land cards from your graveyard. It's a standard legal Crucible of Worlds. If you don't know what Crucible of Worlds is, it's a 3-mana artifact that says you may play land cards from your graveyard. It's very good in Modern. It's used in a lot of decks that like to use Ghost Quarter to just destroy lands and destroy lands and destroy lands. It's also good in the sideboard if you're playing against a land destruction deck, so that if your lands are getting destroyed, you can just replay them from your graveyard. It also helps if you're having trouble finding land. If you have Crucible of Worlds or you have this card out, you can fetch for a land and then go get another land and play your fetch land from your graveyard and fetch for another land if you need to. So the Reminap Excavator is going to be good. It's a 3 cost, green and 2. It may see some play in Modern just because of the Crucible of Worlds aspect and the fact that Crucible of Worlds cost so much money. And this is also a creature, so that helps a little bit too. It gives it that little bit of extra value there. It's going to give you double value, like I said, for all your cycling cards. So anytime you cycle a card, if you have this on the battlefield, you can cycle your land, you can draw a card off the cycle, and then you can play the land from the graveyard. So you're going to get double the value there. Next we have a 2 and a blue instant, Supreme Will. It says choose 1. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. Or you can look the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 in your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library. This is pretty close to a standard legal mana leak. Counter target spell. Any target spell unless its controller pays 3 is going to be real good. Early game is going to be real good mid game. It won't be as good late game unless they're tapping out for something like a Nicol Bolas or something huge like a Gearhulk or something like that. But early on it's going to be good to cover any spell unless they pay 3. It targets any spell, which is good instead of only targeting like a non-creature spell or instant or sorcery or something like that. Any spell you can target for 2 mana or 3 mana, unless they pay an additional 3 themselves. And then its second part says you can look top 4 cards of your library, put 1 in your hand, put the rest at the bottom. It's 3 mana for almost Glimmer of Genius. You don't get the energy, you don't get to scribe, but you do get to look at the top 4 and then put 1 in your hand. So for an additional mana, it's also kind of like Anticipate, but getting to see 4 cards. So it's not going to be too bad. I think it's going to see a lot of standard play. I think there's going to be a lot of Grixis control decks, especially with Nicol Bolas coming out. I think there's going to be a lot of Grixis control. There's always going to be a blue-black control. There's always going to be an Esper control. And this card, I think, would fit in there real good. It may even take the place of something like Anticipate or Glimmer of Genius, just because it also gives you that counterspell ability if you need it. Next is Hour of Revelation. For 3 and 3 white, it's a sorcery. It also says it costs 3 less if there are 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield. Now you think 3 mana, 3 white for a board wipe that costs 3 or less if you have 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield. You think, well, if you've got 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield, you're going to need to do something pretty quick, and the game is pretty well out of hand. But with the control deck, 6 mana is not bad, because this doesn't only just destroy creatures, but this says destroy all non-land permanents. So it's going to destroy enchantments, it's going to destroy artifacts, it's going to destroy creatures, it's going to destroy planeswalkers, all non-land permanents for 6 mana. It's going to destroy all of them. So with your blue-white control and your Esper control, or any kind of control deck that's running white, this could be a possibility. I mean, for 6 mana, control deck is not a lot of mana for a control deck. And with the other board wipes that we have that only get rid of creatures, this to destroy all non-land permanents I think is going to be good and standard if you're playing the right deck. If you're playing some kind of mana ramp deck that runs white, or you're playing some kind of control deck that's running white, I believe that this card's going to fit in there just fine. The 6 mana cost is not going to be that big a deal. And if you do find a situation where you have 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield, being able to pay 3 mana for it instead is just going to be great. The best case scenario to be able to play this card for only 3 mana is most likely going to be in something like multiplayer commander, 4-player commander, something like that. Because getting 10 permanents on the battlefield is much easier when you have 3 or 4 people playing instead of a one-on-one environment. So I see this card probably getting played in a lot of commander decks that are able to play white, just because they're going to be able to play it for 3 mana a lot easier than they would be the 6 mana in something like standard, and you're sure not going to be able to play it for 6 mana usually in modern, because those decks are so much faster and they do things so much quicker. If there's 10 non-land permanents on the battlefield in modern, you've pretty much lost the game unless you're playing something like a token strategy, and by then you're going to need something more than just a board wipe, because if they're able to do that, you're just in all kinds of trouble. Then we have the gods that have been spoiled. I think some of the best cards that we've seen in a while, some of the best cards probably to be commander generals that we have seen in a while. So first off, we have the Scorpion God for 3 and a black and a red. It's a 6/5 legendary creature god. It says whenever a creature with a -1/-1 counter on it dies, you can draw a card. For 1, a black and a red, put a -1/-1 counter on another creature when this creature dies, and that means when the Scorpion God dies, you may return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. Now the reason this is so good is because in Commander, if you don't play Commander or EDH, whatever you want to call it, when your commander dies, the commander goes back to the command zone, and you must pay an additional 2 mana to cast it a second time. So if it costs 6 when it dies, it goes back to the command zone, it costs 8. You cast it, if it dies again, it goes back to the command zone, it costs 10. With these commanders, if you're playing them as your commander, if they die, you can choose to put them in your graveyard. So if you put it in your graveyard, at your end step, it goes back to your hand. You just keep paying the normal mana cost to keep bringing it back over and over again. This is pretty big in Commander because you need your mana for different things instead of having to sink 12, 14, 16 mana into a creature just to play your commander every other turn when somebody's killing it. And with the legendary gods, as good as they are in this set, they are going to be targets, I believe, pretty much to any and all removal that's going to come through in a commander game. So being able to cast it for its same cost over and over again is going to be pretty big. So if you haven't pre-ordered your copies of these yet, at least 1 or 2, you probably need to go ahead and do that, because I believe the commander game by itself is going to cause these cards to go up, even if the boxes get opened at an astronomical rate like they normally do with the masterpieces and interventions being included in these sets. So I think the Scorpion God's going to be pretty good, but I don't like him as much as I do the next one that we're going to talk about. And the next one being the Locust God. The Locust God is 4, a blue and a red. It's a 4/4 flyer. It says, when you draw a card, make a 1/1 insect token with haste. For 2 and a blue and a red, you can draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So anytime you draw a card, you're going to make a 1/1 flying insect with haste. This is pretty good. In a standard format with cards like Pull from Tomorrow, you play your god if he survives. Into your opponent's next turn, you pull for tomorrow for 6. You put 6 1/1 flyers on the battlefield. Even if you're drawing cards and then you draw a card on your own turn, you still get to put a 1/1 flyer with haste, so the flyer gets to attack that turn. This is pretty big. There's a lot of draw spells in red and blue. You have cards that let you, in red, like Tormenting Voice and things like that let you discard cards and draw cards. So you get your insects there. Pull from tomorrow. There's stuff in Modern, but I don't really think this is going to be played in Modern just because it's so expensive unless you can cheat it onto the battlefield some way. But this will be big in Commander. There's a lot of Commander cards that let you draw cards every turn, draw additional cards. There's decks that let you draw additional cards. Every time you draw a card, you're going to get an insect. This is going to be big. It can get out of hand really fast, and they're flying, and they have haste. I think it's going to be a real good card. I think it's probably going to be one of the best gods in the set. To me, it is the best god in the set, but I like red and blue. I like blue. I like being able to draw extra cards. And if you're drawing extra cards and you're getting a creature every time you draw a card, that's just huge. So you really need to look at pick up a playset of these if you can get them under about $5 or $6, because I think they'll go up. They may drop when boxes started getting open, but they will start to go back up. So just hold on to them. Nice little long-term investment there. Then you have the Scarab God for 3, a blue and a black. It's a 5/5, so at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses X life, and you scry X, where X is the number of zombies you control. Then it says for 2 blue and a black, exile a creature card from a graveyard, create a 4/4 zombie. So this is the first set where we've seen 4/4 zombies. Usually if you're getting zombies, they're 2/2 black zombies. With Amonkhet, we got to see the white zombies, and with this one, we're going back to the black zombies again, but they're bigger. We have new mechanics, Eternalize, which was like in Bomb in the old set, except you get a copy of the creature, and it is a 4/4. So not only do you get the same creature with the same wording and the same mechanics, but it gets a little bit bigger. It becomes a 4/4 black zombie. So with this one, at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent's going to lose X life, which X is the number of zombies you control, and you're going to get to scry X cards, where X is the number of zombies that you control. A card like this with something like Kalitas on the battlefield or Liliana the Last Hope, making you some zombies, it's just going to get out of hand really, really, really fast. I like it. I don't like it as much as the Blue-Red God, but I think it's still going to be good, and I think it's going to be better than the Red-Black God. To me, right now, the Red-Black God's kind of coming in last as far as God standings go. Now, somebody will probably break it, and I'll be completely wrong. But as of right now, I kind of see it as being number 2, with the Red-Blue God being first, this one being second, and the Red-Black God coming in third. So just like the first commander, these two, if they die, you could return them to your hand from your graveyard at the beginning of your end step. So with something like EDH or Commander like the first god, these are also have the same casting cost, as long as you can get them from your graveyard back into your hand. Now, there will be Graveyard Hate, and there is Graveyard Hate in Standard now, and there is Graveyard Hate in Commander, of course. So if it goes to your graveyard and they exile it, it'll go back to your command zone, and you'll have to pay the additional 2 anyway. But the chances are, of you getting it to cast it for its same cost at least twice or 3 times in a Commander game is still a fairly good thing. So I would still play him as a commander. In fact, I'm probably going to make a commander deck with the Red-Blue God just as soon as I get a chance. Next we have Zaca the Foul-Blooded for 5, a black and a black and a black. It's a flying trampled demon that's an 8/8, which if that's not enough, for 8 mana you get an 8/8 flying trampled demon. It says pay 2 life, sacrifice another creature, search your library for a card, and put it into your hand. This is going to be great for Commander. It's not going to be good for Limited. It could be good for Standard. It being 8 casting costs is going to be a little rough. But with, blue-black control, Grixis control, 8 mana sometimes is not that bad as long as you can hang on that long, keep the board clear. This card is going to shine in Commander, especially something like the Aetheros Sacrifice deck with the Shadowborn Apostles. If you don't know what Shadowborn Apostle is, it's a 1 mana human cleric that says you can have as many of these in your deck as you would like. And then it says pay 1, sack 6, I think, Shadowborn Apostles, 6 or 7 Shadowborn Apostles. You can search your library for any demon, put it on the battlefield. And with the Aetheros God from Theros and Born of the Gods, it says when a creature you control dies, you can return it to your hand unless an opponent loses 3 life. So you just start sacking creatures, and they either pay 3 life or you get it back and get to keep playing it. So with something like this, you sack your Shadowborn Apostles, you go get this demon, you put it on the battlefield, then you play your Shadowborn Apostles again, and you can pay 2 life, sack another creature, pretty much tutor your library for any card that you want, put it into your hand. What's neat about this is all your tutor spells are usually sorcery speed. And if they are instant speed, it's going to cost you some life, it's going to cost you creatures, it's going to cost you cards, and sometimes even the instant speed tutor spells don't put them directly into your hand. Sometimes they just put them on top of your library for your next draw. Things can be manipulated. You could cast that spell, lose a creature, lose life, then somebody could make you shuffle your library or exile top card of your library. With this, at instant speed, you pay 2 life, you sack a creature, you go get a card, you put it in your hand. Do it at the end of somebody's turn. Do it at the end of your opponent's turn. Go get the cards you want, put it in your hand, play it your next turn without having to worry about any kind of interference or interaction from your opponent. This card's going to be really, really, really good in Commander. It's going to be could be good in Standard if you can get the right build for it. Some kind of control deck that plays black, Grixis or Esper. 8 mana is a lot of mana. But for an 8/8 trample, flying trample demon that can go find you a card when you sack another creature, I think 8 mana is kind of worth it. I would like to have seen it at 6 mana, but then it would just kind of be broken. Anything more than 8 mana just isn't worth it. So I think 8 mana is probably where they needed to be with this creature. I think it's going to be a good creature for Commander. You probably won't see it much in Standard. I know you won't see it in Modern unless they cheat it in. And then you're sacking creatures to gain life. But if you're cheating this creature and you're not really going to have other creatures on the battlefield, you're just putting an 8/8 flying trample creature on the battlefield. That's going to be hard to deal with. But I see this demon getting a lot of play in Commander more than anything else. But I think it's going to be a really, really, really good card, especially for Commander. Then we have Solemnity. And I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, but Solemnity is 2 and a white enchantment that says players can't get counters. Counters can't be put on artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or lands. So if Aetherworks Marvel was still legal, it would shut down your energy counters. You can't get energy counters. In something like Modern, you can't get infect counters. If you know anything about Modern and infect, infect says that if you get 10 infect counters, you lose the game. Even if you're at 20 life, you get 10 infect counters, you lose the game. So this shuts down you being able to get infect counters. It shuts down the energy counters in Standard right now. It shuts down experience counters. In Commander, with the commanders that get experience counters, you can't get your experience counters. It shuts off a bunch of different combos. In Modern, the Coco counters deck that's been so popular here lately, it shuts that down because the creatures can't get -1 counters, the creatures can't get +1/+1 counters. It shuts down a lot of different combos, but it also adds a lot of different combos. You've been seeing them here on the internet in the last few days since this card was spoiled. Some cards have been sold out, some cards have been bought out. Different combos have been published, different things that you can do. And I think this card's going to be really, really, really good. It comes in at rare for white and 2. It's going to easily be able to be played. It shuts down different things with the creature lands that get counters. It shuts down things in Affinity where all the creatures can get counters. Anything gets counters, it's going to shut it down. And I think it's going to be a really good card. It's going to be a really good sideboard card in any deck that plays white in Standard and Modern. And, you know, if this interests you at all, you could play this enchantment turn 1. Play your fetch, play your planes, tap it, exile 2 Simian Spirit Guides, boom. There you go. You got this enchantment on the battlefield turn 1. You don't have to worry about getting your infect counters or dying to infect before you can even get 3 land, which does happen sometimes. So, you know, there's always that too, that you could play this on turn 1 if you needed to. And the last card we're going to talk about today is probably the card that everyone is talking about. Nicol Bolas God Pharaoh. For 4, a blue, a black, and a red. With 7 loyalty, Nicol Bolas is a planeswalker. For +2, target opponent exiles cards from the top of his or her library until they hit a non-land card. Until end of turn, you can play that card without paying its mana cost. So they're just going to start exiling the top of their library until they hit a non-land card, whether it's a burn spell, a creature, an enchantment, anything like that. And if nothing else, you're exiling cards from their library that they can't use later. So if you hit something like a counter spell, it just gets exiled and you don't have to worry about it being played. So that's not bad. +1 says each opponent exiles 2 cards from his or her hand. Not target opponent or not a opponent. Each opponent exiles cards 2 cards from their hand. So in Commander, if you play this, you got 4 opponents, you got 3 opponents. Each of them has to exile 2 cards out of their hand. Of course, if you're just playing, standard, your opponent has to exile 2 cards from their hand. This is a lot better than just 1 because they have to make some choices. If they only have 3 cards in their hand, they have to exile 2. If they only have to exile 1, it makes it a little bit better. But if they only have 2 cards in hand, you're exiling their entire hand every single turn, pretty much, unless they draw a bunch of cards. -4. Nicol Bolas deals 7 damage to target opponent or creature an opponent controls. This is big. It comes in with 7 loyalty, so for -4, you get to deal 7 damage to your opponent as soon as it hits the battlefield. And then you can, if it survives, you can +2 and exile cards from the top of the library till you can play a card, and then the next turn you can hit them for 7 more. So this, the -4 is pretty good. 7 damage to the opponent for -4 loyalty, so it doesn't kill your planeswalker. Usually -7 to an opponent or a creature is the ultimate on some planeswalkers, and this is just a -4 for Nicol Bolas, and you get to keep it. And then the -12 says, exile each non-land permanent your opponents control. So for -12 loyalty counters for Nicol Bolas, you exile everything your opponents control except for their lands. They get to keep their lands, but you wipe the board. Creatures, planeswalkers, artifacts, enchantments, everything gets exiled. Doesn't get destroyed where they might be able to get it back out of the graveyard. It gets exiled. It's gone. You can't get it back. Through, done, over with. And with Nicol Bolas coming in at 7 mana cost, you think, man, that's awful expensive, but it's 7 loyalty planeswalker. And you can play Nicol Bolas as early as turn 5 with playing Tezzeret into your deck. The new Tezzeret in your deck. So for 4 mana, you play your Tezzeret. You +1 your Tezzeret, make an artifact that can be sacked for mana. Turn 5, you play a land, you make another artifact that can be sacked for mana. All of a sudden, you got 7 mana, sack your 2 artifacts, tap your lands, Nicol Bolas, turn 5, just like that. So if you get Nicol Bolas out on turn 5, that's really going to change the game pretty quick. 7 cost Planeswalker on turn 5, that's value right there. So that's all we have so far this week. That's it for the Hour of Devastation Spoilers Edition. Once all cards are completely released, we'll do a top 10 cards of Hour of Devastation video. So I hope you liked the video. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. Give us a like. Follow us on Twitter at UntappedMTG. And also don't forget to check out our sponsor, legitmtg.com. You head over there. Everything over $2 ships free. They have articles, podcasts, YouTube videos for everything from kitchen table to Commander. Anything you need to know, anything you need to learn, you can just ask. You can send them. You can send their creators emails. They always get back with you. They're pretty quick. They're always good about answering your questions and doing what needs to be done to help you. And everything over $2 ships free, so you can't shake a stick at that. Other websites, you buy a card for $3 and ends up charging you $5 to ship it to you. Well, here you pay $3 at Legit MTG for a card. It's going to ship to you for free. So I'm John with Untapped MTG. This is the Untapped MTG YouTube channel. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know some other videos you'd like to see, and we'll get with you next time.